how to turn your omni-channel digital experiences from dreams to reality. With an open digital experience platform, or DXP, you can build and manage digital experiences across multiple channels, such as websites, portals, email, and mobile, keeping the visitor at the center at all times. And that while being connected with your existing ecosystem and backend, such as your preferred CRM, ERP, and digital asset management solutions. By managing content, websites, and environments in Drupal and Drupal Cloud. Building marketing campaigns across sites, email, and mobile with Mautic marketing automation. And adding data-driven personalization driven by an open customer data platform. You know me. Developers can manage projects and environments in Drupal Cloud. In fact, not just Drupal, also Symfony, Mautic, or Node projects. Collaboration, code reviews, and deployments have never been easier with integrated GitLab repositories, very detailed and transparent information, logging, and various CI/CD features. Compliance and security will love the full history logging.
Good morning, DrupalCon. I'm Dominic. I have the honor to introduce Monika Rikic. She is an electronic artist and a creative coder. With degrees in arts, digital arts, and philosophy, Monika's expertise spans a unique blend of disciplines that push the boundaries of what technology and creativity can achieve together. Her keynote, Coding Beyond Functionality, Altering Technologies Through Artistic Research, is set to challenge our perspectives. What struck me the most about this session's description is Monika's focus on reclaiming the importance of open, unproductive, unstable, and maker culture-like practices in the development of technology. This approach, rooted in artistic research and experimentation, is something we can all learn from, especially when we are too focused on being super efficient, being always perfect, and always moving faster. So, and as someone who has worked also in a creative process behind creating the Dropsolid experience platform for almost 8 years now, I can relate to that message. So through countless trials and failures and moments of revelation, we finally arrived to what we think is the best way to run Drupal as an open DXP. So much of what drives open source innovation, just like Monika tells, is about doing, trying, and testing new possibilities. And why merely integrate Drupal into a DXP when it can power it? So without future delay, please join me in welcoming Monika Rikic.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Barcelona, my hometown. I'm very happy to be here. Let's see if I can play this. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So again, I'm Monika Rikic. I work as a new media artist, and mainly I use electronics and creative coding as my artistic languages. I would like to start with a fun fact. My first ever paid programming job was actually a Drupal job. So that was back in 2010 or something, but actually that was that was very interesting. So for me, it's such an honor to be here after so many years. In this keynote, I would like to talk you a little bit about the way I do technology. So it's alternative ways of thinking and producing technological objects or technological devices from an artistic and a philosophical perspective. I'm going to first walk you through my practice and explain you how I ended up making all these things and actually can make a living out of it. And but I would also like to address the following questions. This is like the main conceptual questions that I'm asking lately in my practice. The first one is like, what role do objects play in shaping the world? How does technology influence the construction of our culture and our identities? And how can we alter the universalized narratives in technology through artistic experimentation and research? So, where did everything started? I always had an interest in computers, but I never thought that I could be doing art with them. Like now, maybe people are more used to seeing art made with computers, but back in the early 2000s, that wasn't the case. My interest in computers actually was triggered while I was surfing the website in my aunt's house, actually in the US, in the late 90s, and I was very amazed about how you could actually click on things on the screen and go from one hyperlink to another, and I don't know, you probably remember all these super slowing images downloading, and also but also, it wasn't only about navigating and interacting with the website, but for me, it was also a way for, sorry, wait, okay. You know, unstable technology. Let's keep it like this with my hand. Okay, so for me, it was also a way for playing video games without my parents knowing. Because obviously, back in the day, video games were super bad, you know? So for my parents, lucky enough, computers were associated with school and work activities. And well, after seeing that I was playing and I was spending so much time in the summer in the US, in front of the computer, they decided to get me a computer. But they just didn't go to the shop and buy the computer. They asked my other teenage and a little bit older cousin to go and build a computer for us. That was very cool. And I don't know who many people from here are from Barcelona, but we went to Calle Sepúlveda, which is a place in the city center where you could buy pieces of computers and make your own. I was completely blown up by the idea that those little green things full of solder and stuff could actually play all the Monkey Island saga in my half a square meter screen that was taking over all my mom's office space, which actually ended up being my place for playing video games. So I think, like most of us, I spent I spent a lot of hours of my early teenage years surfing the website unsupervised, playing video games, making up weird email accounts with weird names, and spending time chatting with random people in chat rooms, which some of them were kind of creepy, and also, of course, downloading love songs on Napster to burn CDs for my crushes. I'm sure you can all relate to that. Anyway, as I said, for me, computers were a thing, and I was also I was always interested in making art. So when the time came that I had to go to university, I decided to enroll in fine arts. Like everybody, if you think about art, you think that you're going to paint. So I took a brush, and it was a complete disaster. I don't know if many of you have ever tried to paint, but it's very, very difficult. And I was kind of disappointed, but lucky enough, in Barcelona, there was we were kind of cool in compared to other universities, and we had video and photography. So I decided to go through that path, to see if clicking was better than painting. But around my third year of university, I had a teacher, Ricardo Iglesias, which is a very nice robotic artist from Spain, that gave us Dreamweaver. So we could do net art. And yeah, this is Dreamweaver was still Macromedia back then. And well, for me, it was also a way for me doing very basic static websites that I don't know if you've ever used that, but it was very funny to put an image and make like the shape of the image, and it could become a link, you know. And then I was creating my hyperlinked super static websites until, of course, I discovered Flash. You know, so I'm very happy that a lot of people can relate about this too. So yeah, Flash. Flash was an amazing way of creating dynamic websites and also animation. I wasn't very good at drawing either in art school, so doing animations like this, it was kind of fun. And then I realized that, hey, you know, maybe it makes sense that I start learning coding, because ActionScript was the thing that was behind Flash. And that was actually, I could say, like, I guess that ActionScript was my first encounter with code, and also my first way of making weird video games that we could put, like, that I could be taken as art. Because back in the day, also, video games weren't seen as art. Anyway, long story short, to finish up with my university years, that was back in around 2006. I was, of course, like, there was a class called Interactive Narratives, and I was like, of course, you know, I want to go there. And we had this teacher that started talking to us about interactive art, you know, interactive art that happens outside the screen, and that you use these brains, you know, that you can actually code with USB. And suddenly he brings this thing that really, really looks a lot like those, now I know they are called PCBs, but they're like those little, like, green boards that I used to make computers with my cousin back in the day. And probably some of you have already guessed, but that was an Arduino. That was like the second year that Arduino was deployed. Arduino is a microcontroller that can help you to sense and to react to the world. And for me, it was literally magic. So got out of uni, I did my master's in digital arts in 2009, 2010. I continued growing my passion for Arduino and for interactive things, but I also developed a weird, a deep attraction, I must say, for databases, PHP, and JavaScript, which was actually kind of useful if you're trying to be an artist and you can actually not afford your bills, for being a freelancer programmer. And that's why my first ever paid programming job was for making a Drupal website. And not only that, another fun fact that I just realized when I was making this presentation is that I wasn't only making websites, I also was sub-hired by other, like, bigger companies to create mobile applications. And I can say that from 2013 until 2014, I was the developer of the Pope app. So not many people can say that actually the Pope has touched its code, but I can say it. He will never know it was me, though, because there was, like, you know, like other companies on top of me, but I was the end developer of that. Yeah, I can prove it, though. I still have the code, the font code of the Pope. I mean, that's a career goal, of course, or life goal, maybe. Anyway, just going back to my artistic practice, these are the three pillars that have been always there in my practice, although my conceptual approach is kind of like changing or evolving through the years. So, playful arts. I began my journey in playful arts through experimental games. I will get a little bit more about what experimental games mean for me now in a minute. But because I wanted to skip the traditional artistic imaginary and the power dynamics that were tied to art. Actually, I kind of always explain this, but when I was in my last year of university, I worked as a guide in the Contemporary Art Museum of Barcelona, and I was shocked about how many people would enter there and say, like, I don't understand anything. And I was like, oh, why do you come here? You know, it's like, you should be able to learn, I don't know, listen, whatever. But I mean, in the end, they were right, you know. It's like, there's many things that we don't understand from artists, and that's actually the base of conceptual art, maybe. But you can like be open, learn. But that wasn't kind of what I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to do things that could be like experienced or that could be like easily understood. That doesn't mean it doesn't have concept. I will explain you later when I talk about these two guys about how I create my devices and my practice. But you know, I wanted things that were a little bit more embodied. Which takes me actually to the second point, which is the physical world. I work with the physical world, which is kind of funny because when you tell people I'm a digital artist, or that's why I say I'm an electronic artist, because if you say digital artist, everybody thinks that you're working on a screen, you know, and stuff like that. So digital things can also happen beyond the screen. And yeah, I always work in the physical world. And handmade electronics, which is kind of what you can see here. I come from the maker movement and the hacker movement. I've learned a lot from that. I've learned a lot by doing. I really think that making is thinking. And I'm like by creating my own devices, I've learned a lot, not only about technology, but also about the world in general. Going back to the game idea, I always put this quote from The Abolition of Work, which compares like game activities to the difference between games and work in a way. But I think what I really like from this quote is that, sorry, that the game has no consequences, like real consequences maybe in the, sorry, this guy is moving like all the time. It doesn't have real consequences maybe in the reality plane, but it does have transformative consequences in the player. So apart from trying to break these power relations or these boundaries between art, well, the artwork, the artist, and the audience, I really think that experiences like experimental video games or games in general can lead you to new states of consciousness while playing them. And also, every time you play, it is different, right? As an example, for example, so you can have like an idea of what I talk when I talk about experimental games, are like this type of games that go beyond the screen. This is a video game we developed in 2015, in Montreal with a group of friends, and it's basically a space survival game. But instead of playing on a screen, there's two players in two different rooms. One is actually on a spaceship, which is made with foam board, but it's a spaceship, and you're sitting on a chair that has a transducer that vibrates also, and you are wearing the controllers. And there's the base command, or Houston, which is in another room, and can see the player, and both and the base command is helping the player to know how to command its own, the spaceship in order to survive a wormhole. So the whole experience is 2 minutes. If you survive, if not, you die before and you go. It's kind of like, at the beginning we were like, oh, let's make it 10 minutes. No way. I mean, 2 minutes is way enough, especially if you go in there. There's a lot of things you learn actually from user experience and user design by doing interactive art, I must say. And yeah, so it was very funny because it was also a game where you didn't really have rules. You just have a set of goals that you had to achieve, and the way you were communicating to each other in order to control the spaceship was very open. So people were creating their own system, and with everybody, the game would change with if you were playing with different people. That also that also leads me to explain that there's other type of games that I like that I've been involved in creating, which are theatrical experiences, performative. Participatory theater plays that are also very linked with video games. For example, this one, which is a role-play game, let's say in a way, where the audience is separated in different groups, and they have to live a series of, they are like citizens on a city that they have to live. I don't want to go too deep into the concept of this, but this was all made with Unity. So using video games softwares can also, can also take you to do theater plays, why not? But even though I was related, well, I was working with theater and I was doing like a lot of embodied things, I wasn't doing this alone. I was working with the theater school from Berlin, actually with the puppet school from Berlin, where they do like robots and other stuff. But I'm not a choreographer, or I'm not as I said, like a theater person, really. So I started creating electronic devices that actually can, oh, sorry, the thing is falling all the time, that actually can be seen as playful, theatrical, electronic devices. What do I mean with this? So a theatrical device is a network that makes up the representation, well, by in this time the object, the subjectivity is materialized in the spectators, and the discursivity of the narrative around the artistic object. What do I mean with this? Let's put an example. This project, which is these ones here, this is called Data Gossiping Robots. Okay, so it was an open call actually, because like as artists, in order to like economically survive in life, we tend to see open calls and then we apply with a project that can actually match our concept or stuff. And that was actually an open call for the Mobile World Congress, where they had like an exhibition some years ago here in Barcelona, and they were like, okay, how can we imagine the future relations between humans and robots? Back in the day, that was 2019, everybody we used to call AI robots. Okay, now everybody calls it AI, like things change, you know? Like NFTs, no one remembers that, you know, but back then, the cool word was robots. And also, at this time, there was a lot of popularity around the idea of singularity. So singularity is the moment, you know, I'm sure everybody knows, but it's the moment where machines will be the same or more intelligent than we humans. And of course, what they are going to do is take over, kill us all, and that's it, you know? Because there's no way we can imagine other ways of relating with technology, because I don't know, Western history has a little bit of heritage around these type of relationships too. So we kind of project the same idea with these entities, no? That actually are the first entities that we think that are bigger than us, although they are not even human, but whatever. And so I said, okay, you know, it's like if I was a robot, and I was super intelligent, you know, and suddenly I get to the singularity, you know, it's like, I don't really want to kill humans, you know, like it takes so much effort and it takes so much energy, you know, and it takes so much things that I don't really need them, you know, I'll be just doing my thing, you know, so these ones also, back in this time, you know, when I was thinking about this project, it wasn't only this idea around me about trying to think about non-apocalyptic outcomes for the robots, but there was also a problem that actually we don't think about that anymore, thanks to AI, but there was like the privacy, you know, was very big, where people didn't really want bots, you know, to be behind their mobile devices, stealing all their data. And I was like, okay, if I was a super intelligent robot, you know, that I work about stealing data, how would be my social relations? So I proposed gossip. You know, it's like, why not? They just go home, and what they do is they start gossiping about I don't know, about whoever you are like stealing data from, you know. And the setup of this exhibition was these little robots that actually, sorry, they're off, but it was too much to set them up. They are hanging on these ropes, as if they were, you know, I don't know, like in Spain, people used to gossip when they were hanging their clothes, you know, after, in Catalan it's called fesa freig, okay, so people were like hanging the things, and these robots were actually fed with information from myself, because privacy. And I started creating like these dialogues in between them with Dialogflow from Google, pre-ChatGPT and all these technologies. And they were just making up conversations. They could actually talk. You could actually see what's written here. And this is what I mean by a theatrical device. You know, it's like something that it's put there with a concept, that it's staging some kinds of concepts, and that it needs the spectator, it needs the public to be around and finish up like the conceptual connection. Also, this this work helps me a lot to talk about how I work in layers, how my way for approaching the audience and to make kind of works a little bit more interesting for the mainstream public, at least from this this experience I told you I had in the Contemporary Art Museum, where people weren't like, oh, I don't understand anything. You know, I try to work in layers. The first layer is something like very colorful, like try to make, as you can see, try to make technology like something colorful, something that is attractive, something that is like, oh, what are they? You know, they are faces. Oh, and that keeps you asking like, what are they doing? You know? So this is the second layer, the conceptual layer. It's like when you get the attention, then you can explain them better. Oh, they are gossiping. It's like, oh, why are they gossiping? You know, so it's like kind of this game that it's also for me very playful, related to concept where people can, you know, a little bit engage more on these scenarios of critical thinking that I would actually like to trigger with my works. And the other one is the geek layer, of course. If you turn around these guys, you can see, and probably you won't see it from there, but you can, we can have a look later, that going back to the handmade electronic part, they are all made, I would say handmade, yeah, they are handmade, but of course I use digital fabrication tools like laser cutters and 3D printers, but this is made with a Raspberry Pi, it has a screen, it has just a little motor, and LCD screen, and a lot of mechanics, which is also my passion. So even like, well, this type of research and this type of proposals have even took me to like, one day, one of the last like crazy artworks I made about that, around this concept about how we relate with singularity, no, or how we relate with machines if they ever get more into. I always do like this because I'm sorry, but I don't really believe that's going to happen. But whatever, let's speculate. And one proposal that I was making is like, you know, if we need to communicate this work, what I actually wanted to say is like, oh, if we want to communicate with machines in a peaceful way, maybe we can use spirituality. So I created a spiritual portal to communicate with a computer. You could actually code and communicate with it through coding. So in the end, everybody will need to code, but to spiritually connect them with machines. So yeah, kind of like proposals like this. So yeah, in the end, as I was saying, the conceptual focus of my practice have been changing through the years, but I always saw art as an experimental playground where philosophy and engineering can meet. Obviously in a very playful way, and I don't really, this is not the moment maybe to get too deep, but most of the works that I do come with a lot of written articles and stuff that I developed, and they can go like quite deep in philosophical concepts, let's say. So, another thing, one of the questions that I told you that I wanted to target in this talk is, what role do technological objects play in the configuration of the world? Or what role do objects play in the configuration of the world? I really like this book called Tools for Conviviality from Ivan Illich, that talks about what it means to use tools, no? Or what it means to relate to the world with tools, no? Tools or objects. It says, an individual relates himself in action to the society through the use of tools that he or they actively master or which they is passively act upon. In the degree that they master the tools, they can invest the world with their meaning. In the degree that they are masters by their tools, the shape of the tool determines his own self-image. For me, this is very meaningful, and especially in a moment where technology is everywhere. Most of us probably are developers, you know, or relate usually to technology, but people don't really, you know, and everything is made so you are more and more comfortable without believing that everything is magic, you know, that internet goes up in the air, although we know that it goes down in the ground, you know, and it's very physical. So in contraposition of this idea of the tools or the objects controlling the humans, which is actually, well, the humans, the society in a way, or the world. Actually, like, I don't know if you see it, but this book was written in 1973. So they were like talking about like many other stuff. Some of the things are kind of like obviously outdated, but I think it's very interesting the idea that he proposes in this book, which are the convivial tools. So according to his words, a convivial tool, it's a tool that generates neither a slave or a master, but it's a tool that helps you collaborate and help collaborate with it, or you create to collaborate with it and to bring meaning to the world, to create new things to the world. This actually relates a lot with the hacker philosophy, It's like make, remix, recreate, and the open source communities. So I really, like that. I really can really relate to all these concepts. So what happens with robots? Why do I put robots here, right? Well, robots are objects, we all know, but they are objects that actually mean, for me, like kind of like they translate this idea of the subjectivized technology in a way, no? So it's, robots is a thing, it's an object that before it started in our imagination, like many other things, but we're just talking about this specifically. And then everything that we developed around them comes from there. They embody, in a way, our biggest fears and our biggest hopes, right? And I would like to put this quote from Kay Darling, which is an MIT expert, that says, we shouldn't laugh at people who fall in love with a machine because it's going to be all of us. When I read this sentence, I thought that it was quite interesting to be surprised about people falling in love with an object, which is something that we've seen in a lot of, maybe not in love, but having devotion for science and having devotions for objects is a thing that happens, for example, in a lot of religions, right? I don't know, one thing that I can relate to, for example, if you go with the processions in Spain on Easter, you see people like really crying and really feeling about objects that are, of course, more than objects, which are objects that are given a lot of meanings. And that meaning that we give to those objects culturally are built through the years and the years, and through the whole community. The difference, I think, that happens with the super fast injection of technology, and the robots in that sense in the society, and especially in the unknown society, is that we haven't really agreed, on how we build that future or those devices, but it has been somehow imposed by all these apocalyptic narratives that I'm trying to disrupt with my works. And I would like to recover one sentence from Gilbert Simondon, which is a philosopher that wrote a book called On the Mode of Existence of Technological Objects, which says basically that the most powerful case of alienation in the contemporary world resides in the misunderstanding of the machine, which is not an alienation caused by the machine, but by the non-knowledge of its nature and essence. That's why for me, it's very, very important education inside my practice. Like, I really think that transferring knowledge about technology and different perspectives and different ways about seeing and perceiving technology will also make people understand more the world and bring more meaning through these type of tools. And I really think that art, it's a way that can help a lot of people that maybe don't feel that related or are scared, but also weird imaginaries about engineer, or it's not the way for entering to that world. So I think arts and doing, learning by doing and stuff like that, I think it's a very, very useful way and approach for me teaching technology and coding and bring meaning to the world. I also believe that our understanding of cognition should be expanded. And it should also recognize that it goes beyond the mind, right? It goes beyond consciousness. For example, embodied cognition, I don't know if you're related to that. So, for example, there's a book from Catherine Hayes that I haven't quoted here, but I think it's very interesting, that it's called Unthought, that talks about many different things about the conscious, unconscious, and the cognitive unconscious, sorry, and how many different things that we have around us are actually cognitive, without having consciousness. Why am I talking about this? Because one of the focus that I really have in my practice, it's about how to express that embodied cognition in my practice. For example, if we think about how we express how we express cognition usually regarding to AI is basically on spoken and written language. And to do the things that to do the things that AI systems can do, we need like a huge load of resources, and a huge load of data. So with embodied cognition, like in things, like for example, in this project of this little guy that keeps moving around, I try to create like the same effects that we can have. I want to hold it, but it's stuck. Anyway, here. So I try to make, with very, very simple electronics and with very, very simple movements, this idea that something is kind of alive, which is actually what this simulation of consciousness, or well, not consciousness, sorry, of cognition, and this simulation of life in a way is what happens to us, is the uncanny sensation that we actually get when we work with AI systems. So I try to make it with a very simple and small setups and theatrical spaces and theatrical devices like these little guys. And also, I haven't shown it in this presentation, but they are networked because I really like, as I said, I really like databases and I really like PHP and controlling and networks, and I really love that. And I think that networking and controlling, connecting one thing to another using like different protocols like OSC or, as I was saying, like databases or whatever, like only the design of those architectures, and kind of trying to make that through in a poetic way, it's like art. I don't know. So in this project, I also show the code that is running the little babies, let's call them that way. And by the way, they also have like little magnets in their hands, and they can get stuck to each other, which is like super cute. And well, this idea of cute and unharmful technology and how do we relate to this. So going back to my current project and going forward to my current project and going to the robots of the future or how to actually apply all these experiments and all these things into trying to make technological research inside Institute of Robotics, of Industrial Robotics here in Barcelona, thanks to European grant, which are called, so the European, there's these European programs called STARTS, which stands for Science, Technology and Arts, which have been putting a lot of money and a lot of resources for artists to get into labs, from technological labs in different ways, and also like biological labs, and art and technology and science labs. So we could work together in different approaches and create from this experimental field that I'm telling you about that arts offer, creating, trying to push forward the technological and scientific research. And it's not easy, I must say. That's a little spoiler, because I have this idea that, well, I have a feeling that me having worked for 15 years in the field of art, science, technology, but from the arts, we have it 100% super clear. We have all these festivals, we have Ars Electronica, we have all these things, and it's like, yeah, art, we push forward technology. Then you enter to a lab and they are like, can you paint? Can you, and it's like, what? It's like, are you going to decorate this? And it's like, it's not, don't take me wrong. I'm not saying in the engineers' labs are doing something wrong. It's just that, I don't know. I'm not that sure that art really pushes forward anything, but, pleasure or experimentation, So for me, it was very important and interesting to get into this laboratory It was very nice because it was in Barcelona, because with these programs and residencies, it can be anywhere in Europe, so you could be like moving around. And it was about robots, you know. It's like, I love robots. I do weird robots, but I love them. So the main, how you say, like the first sentence, no, or the main thing of the open call was like, okay, you know, we have an aging society in all Europe, but especially we're talking about Catalonia, and people want to be in their houses, you know, so people will need robots. Okay, so how can we work around assistive robotics, you know, and make people understand better what are they, you know, and how can we live with them? At the beginning, I wanted to create like an experimentation about my experimentations that I just told you, you know, it's like, oh, how can robots move and don't talk to people, but just express themselves, you know, and then it was my idea of magic, you know, then you go there and you see those industrial robots and they're like, okay, what am I going to do with these, you know? And because I really wanted to do something useful, you know, I didn't want to go there and do my own thing, you know? So I stayed for a bit. I was hanging out in the lab and trying to make an idea of what could I do. And I realized they had this little robot, which is actually, this is based on that, which is called, the robot they are developing there, it's called Nyam. It's their own development. And I'm like, hey, you know, it's like, Nyam, sorry, I didn't explain it. It's a little robot that helps people eat that they cannot eat by themselves, you know? So it has a spoon. I'm going to put you another video so you can see. So this is the hacking version they are doing, you know, it has a spoon. You can sit there, you know, it's based on another robot called Obi, that it's actually a robot that you can already buy, and you know, and the idea was nice, especially because it was little, you know, and because I could actually make something with it. So I proposed the lab that while they were making their in-house version of the robot, I was going to apply the maker strategies and the hacker strategies and replicate the same robot they were doing with the same motors, but I was going to hack its behavior, I was going to hack its shape, and I was going to hack a little bit like everything that it could do. Why? Because working with assistive robotics, I realized that we are not only designing pieces of technology, but we are designing a projection of the future that we are going to live as a society. And it's not small that there's a European grant for artists to make robots of the future more socially accepted, you know? It's like there's a clear path. I'm not saying there's not needed, I'm saying that there's a clear path where we're going to end up, or at least, yeah, you know, maybe there's no places for everybody in the residencies, maybe there's not, people want to be in their homes. Yeah. There's different things that you can take that from, but obviously it's not only a matter, at least from me, it's not only a matter of technology development, but also a social projection, you know? So I decided to forget about my project while I was doing this reproduction of the Nyam, and I started talking with people that I knew around me that were working around care and caregiving and assistance for humans, you know, or with humans, you know. So for example, well, in the first video you can see there, those are the engineers I'm working with here at EDI in the lab, and they have a very, very interesting perspective about how to put robots as kitchen appliances, you know, really. It's like they are not your friends, you know, they are just tools that are there, you know, and they are trying to push that forward. And as the more you work with technology, you know that's true, you know. But people, you know, talk to the robot and do other things because it's what all our imaginary is around there. I was also, like the second video of the interview, because I was conducting different interviews, is Karina from a syndicate called Sindillar, Sindiogar, which is the syndicate of women workers from household and caregiving processes. I guess it will be the real translation, which is an activist syndicate group, which actually meet every week, you know, and are all these women that especially come from the global south here in Spain that are trying to have a better life and fight for their rights as workers in assistance and caregiving. And another example are my friends Xavi Dua and Patricia Carmona, which are assistance users for all their life, and they are also activists for the rights of people with disabilities. And it's very interesting to see their approach about how they use and how they relate with human assistance, because there are many, many things about how we humans assist and how technology should assist and how the things become when you don't really, the thing is, when you don't really need assistance, we tend to romanticize a lot what assistance should be. We tend to think like, for example, oh, there's a robot that is going to feed me. Ah, but I don't want no robot to feed me, I want my loved ones. Yeah, but if you have to feed every single day, all the times you have to eat, it gets a little bit more complicated, So de-romanticize all this idea is, it's a point that it was interesting, but also it's interesting to see who is founding the robot that is giving food for people, which is maybe, not going to say, but maybe it's a company that has interest on feeding a lot of people because they have a lot of people that need to be fed. And it will be, I don't know, maybe cheaper to have robots than to have humans working for them, So as I said, designing industrial robotics is not only a matter of technological solutions, but it's an interrelation of many, many things, and it's a very, very big matter about how we are designing our futures in relation to technology. As an output, I'm creating this robot that I will show you just now a small little demo. But also, I have this video that it's still not in my website, but it will be soon, that it was all these reflections, and all these outputs about all the interviews that I was doing for the conceptual research. And where I'm there, of course, as you can see, in a kitchen, very like Martha Rosler-like. I don't know if you're related to early days of the video art. But, well, I try to be a little bit I don't know, disrupting for with all the things that I'm saying for the audience. Sorry, I get distracted if I hear two things. And all the, well, the different, as I said, like reflections and the different opinions and the different like imaginaries that we can take out from all the research. So what am I doing with the, I'm just going to pass that because running out of time. So what are the main points for me to be hacked from the robot? And I'm going to explain that very quickly. So first of all, of course, is the shape of the robot. Like we have this idea, well, at least when I arrived there, like they told me, which is like, and I'm not saying that's wrong, I'm saying that there's like a general understanding that social robots must have humanoid features in order to be more socially accepted. But for me, from my artist point of view, which is non-academic, luckily, it's like golden. It's like, yeah, okay, but if we are selecting human features in order to put them in the robot, we need to define what's the idea of human, right? No. So that comes back to a lot of post-humanist ideas that you can find in philosophy. And also we can go to queer theories and feminist theories about what looks should the robot have. What colors, as I said, what shapes, A lot of the robots that are in the lab, they have women features, of course. They are all white, of course. This one has glasses. But, and also like these little eyes, the version they have in the lab, it also has the little eyes, which are actually very useful if you have people that cannot like relate a lot of to other humans. If they move a little bit the eyes, it works, But that's the idea also from art. Like how can we push forward and do other stuff? Another point that I thought it was very important to hack is the way the code is written. Like some years ago, I was doing a research about what are the cultural grammars that are embedded into coding, right? Coming from, starting from that most of the programming languages are written in English, they are written from left to right, the way that something compiles. How can we apply like different perspectives and philosophical assumptions to the way code is creating and how code is somehow alienating? Let's go back to Flash. I was very sad when Flash wasn't allowed anymore, you know, in websites. Like I've lost a lot of work, you know, and most of the net art, like super cool things that you can find in the way, they don't compile anymore because a company decided that Flash wasn't going to be allowed in their devices. That's very sad. But that actually, in a way, creates culture. And I do really believe that the way we code and the way we create technology and the way we create these networks and stuff, it's culture. And another point that for me was very important to hack is the way the robot sees. Right? For example, in the robot that they have, that you can see like some kind of a demo, it's quite simple. It's like you're there. Obviously, you just have to imagine the people that cannot eat, so they probably have some kind of impediment in their arms, you know. So they interpret the face, you know. So it's like, okay, the robot comes to your face. Wait until you open the mouth. If you open the mouth, it means you give consent for eating. And if you don't open the mouth, it doesn't matter. If it has a timeout, and it will make you eat, you know? So all these kind of things, which is, yeah, it's kind of like, okay. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So I've been working on experiments about how to give, reaffirm the consent of eating, you know, through consent theories, or how do you work with faces that are not recognized, you know, or how do you interpret proximity? And these are the type of experiments that we were doing. Another interesting thing with working with a lab is that I have no control at all about the times and the timings of the project, which is also kind of like interesting. So I just brought you a little demo that I don't know if it's going to work perfect, but we don't care, you know. And so you can see a little bit how, like a little, like creative coding, like a gadget that I created for working with this robot. I'm going to put the, can you, oh yeah, perfect. Okay, so if that was to be the software from the detection, and that was, oh, well, actually they used an administrator that like an admin system that it's also made with JavaScript, and everything was with ROS back then. But I had to remake my own robot for showing here for privacy and confidentiality things. So don't mess with a maker, you know, I can make this in a week. No, it was part of a longer process, but I had to code everything with Arduino and processing for the purpose of this talk. But I think that it makes like a good demo of the type of things that I'm trying to approach. Let's see if I can. It asked me twice if I was hungry. It was very quick, but then it asked me, are you hungry? Yes, gives consent, and then. Oh, okay. Thank you. I think that last, you know, when you upload things in production before testing too much, that was actually what happened. Okay, and now it would fit me again every time I open my mouth twice. Okay, another thing that I would like to say about let's see how many times it fits me. Oh, aggressive feeding. Well, thank you, robot. Okay. Another thing that I would like to say now that you can see it from here is that, probably point it a little bit better, is that the reason why I chose these colors and this type of shape, it was not, I didn't want it to look like a chicken, okay, although it looks like maybe a little bit like a chicken, but it was more about, if you look at it, probably it looks like a toy. And I think that's important also because, as I told you, I use colorful things, but I think that one very interesting thing that I've learned about the research with assistive robotics is that these type of devices, we mostly think about them for older people. And that was very interesting because we think, or we believe, someone told me this, I'm not making this up, like it's part of the research that I've been doing with sociologists and stuff, that we think about kids as as beings that need to be nourished, and older people as as humans that should be maintained, you know. So we really think that kids should have humans, and older people or people with other types of subjectivity should be taken care by robots, or at least we don't think that, but we don't feel that uncanny if they are taken care by robots. And that was kind of interesting because that's also something that my friends that I show you from the interview that are the activists also say that, you know, if they go to, that when they go to places where people do rehab, they are full of machines, you know, that help them to get better. But actually, if you talk to them, like my two friends that were in the video, they are dancers. They have a dance company, although they work, they're wheelchair users. But also when they do dance therapy in places for rehab, you know, like only the connection with the real humans, not humanoids, is very useful and interesting for them. Let's see if it fits me again. Aggressive feeding. Ah, yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is supposed to get the food, you know. Oh well. Anyway, well, okay, I'll stay until it finishes. Okay. Well, if you want to come closer later, you're more than welcome. I'm going to change back the screen, please. Thank you. So, I need to wait, to remember everything. Yep. Okay, so there's one last thing that I would like to talk to you about in the next 6 minutes that I have, briefly, which are the hacking camps. Because I'm not the only weird person doing like this type of stuff. There's a community, and I think they are very nice. And I really think like, also like going back to how I started, I don't think I would ever be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for the open source and the open hardware community. Because everything you want is there, you know? And I think that somehow, and I'm repeating myself saying this, we are losing like maybe not us, but I see like there's a tendency of losing the tendency for creating things, for, you know, trying to learn, trying to make your own stuff, you know, and stuff like that. So there's like these beautiful and amazing places called the hacking camps, which I'm very happy and proud and honored to be able to go almost every summer, whenever I can. Which one of them is called Dynacon. And this is the first one I went in 2018. And this is basically, what's a hacking camp? It's basically a group of nerds in nature doing stuff with technology, you know? So in this one, for example, called Dynacon, it was made in Thailand. You know, you just have to get there by yourself, and then you have, for example, we had a boat that it was a makerspace. There was 3D printed things and everything, but usually that boat, it was in Phuket, next to Phuket, and in the boat they also have like open science and an open hardware lab where people from there, from like the school kids and stuff, could actually go and analyze the sea and would learn how to be like more sustainable, how to take care of the sea. You know, the only idea so Andy, that is the one that makes it. That's him. That started. Sorry. and that was Hannah. He's from the US, she's from Berlin. So his idea was to create like a conference where you actually didn't have to pay or get engaged in all these academic like rules and academic like things, because he was working as a scholar, after getting his PhD. And then he said, it's like, let's stop talking that much. Let's make it, let's make things. Actually, I must say, before I continue explaining about Hagen Camps, is that Andy is the main character of this very nice show that you can find on Amazon Prime, I think now, that it's called Hacking the Wild, which is like the last survivor, that thing is like, okay, what would you do if you get lost in the wild with technology and nothing else, So it helps you like to make fire with the batteries, or to do a parachute with a computer, and a phone, and then you get lost. So that's kind of like interesting, is like, yeah, it's like how to take technology to help you survive. So he kind of comes from that. And now there's one happening in Bali, by the way. Like you can also like have information if you want. But for me, it's very interesting because for me, it's my happy place. You just go there, you meet a bunch of people from all over the world, and you're just there, on a camp and making coconuts that are hearts, or making a boat that will help people to cross by. There's different levels of utility of the things you have to do, but especially it's a place where unproductive and fun technology happens. It's actually quite productive, though, to make these things. And also in Europe, there's another one, and this is just to finish up, that it's called PIF Camp. That it's in Slovenia. This year they've done 10 years. And like, just in case you're interested in this type of things and you live in Europe, and this is in this amazing place in the Socha River. And as you can see, there's people soldering 24/7. There's even people that do things with mycelium and fungi, because that's like a thing. There's people doing live coding, which is making music with code and making videos with code. So I would say that those could be, they are my happy places, but they could also be like happy places for everybody that it's an enthusiast of technology, and especially of open source communities and all that stuff. So I am very good on time, so thank you very much. And I hope you enjoyed.
Okay, thank you so much, Monica. That was really inspiring and fun to take us through your journey.
Thank you.
And sharing with us all your ideas and how you're connecting the physical and virtual worlds through your art, science, technology. It was really special. I feel like almost like more than creating, you're almost tapping into these worlds and exposing them and helping us to understand more of the concepts. So now I'm going to open this up to questions. You can please go up to one of the microphones. Anybody has any questions? While people come up, I'm just going to maybe ask one. You talk a lot about the need maybe of art and in the technology, and like how do you apply in that technological transformation? How we're in a room full of builders and makers here. How can you bridge that gap in our everyday work world?
Sorry, you repeat the question again?
Okay. Your use of art.
Yeah.
You're exploring, making all these ideas. How can we apply more of that, of your, inspirations in what we do in our work world?
Well, I guess as I think I was like explaining before, like for me, like the architecture of piece of code, anything can be seen as art. So I think any technological and scientific task is very, very creative. So I don't know. The problem is like, how do we describe art? I think that as long as you create something and you're passionate about it, and it's for good, let's add that. No bad things. Then it's art. Like I always, for example, I always defend that technology is not only for engineers. You know, it can also be for witches like us. But it's. I would like to defend the same for creative practices, you know? It's like you don't need to be a super great artist or a full-time artist in order to create things.
True, true. That's a great point. Do you have a question?
Hi. One of the things you mentioned in passing was your little robot, the cute one, and how you tried to come up with some simple rules to make it look like it was alive. And that reminded me of the most playful person I've ever met, who was a mathematician named John Conway. And a long time ago, he had a similar idea. What are the simplest rules I could come up with to create something that's actually complicated? And he came up with the game of life. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
So that was just a little connection I made. And also there's a connection in the Drupal world that one agency, Evolving Web, uses his glider as their logo.
Yeah, well, that's it. Actually, in the end, like because I only brought one here because it was too much to bring. I already brought a lot of props, but if you see them all together, it's kind of like the same emerging behaviors that Conway was doing. You know, it's like trying to see them with very simple things. How can emerge like different with simple rules? How can it emerge like behaviors or projection of things? So thank you for the reference because you see that does it. And I think like I must insist, like creating like websites or connections or systems or any technological system can bring emerging behaviors. Thank you.
Christina.
So, question, in your exhibitions, do you see any difference on the reactions between adults and kids? How they are open to discover new things and how they react?
Yeah, I think like, of course, at the beginning of my career, they put me a lot in the kids realm, but then they were like, okay, that's a little bit too serious. Something is because of the colors and stuff. And I think that grown-ups get more philosophical and kids can enjoy it, and I think that's what I like from it, that you can just go and have like different experience. I don't care until how deep you go. But I've been, for example, now I'm thinking about one thing. Like when I had my solo exhibition here in Barcelona last year, I was like explaining all these things, and then I go to the adults, and we were talking about this projection that I was talking with the robot, you know, and the fears and blah blah. And then you talk with kids, and they don't have that. You know, they're like, no, I'm not scared about robots. Like, no, the robots are blah blah. You know, and I think I learn more from them, from the impression they get from my works than me. Yeah. And them from me. Yeah. Thank you.
I know you've talked about how we need to stop talking about how we are affected by technology and start thinking about it and approaching it in a different way. You know, and right now with AI emerging and stuff like that, how does your art help to express this, and how do you bridge the technology with culture?
Well, I mean, technology is culture. I think there's no need to breach. I just think that we need to understand that's it. Like, and I really think that we need to understand that the idea of taking part in the creation of the technology is for us being active in creating and developing our culture. There's a very good philosopher called Yu Kui that he's from originally from China, and he has a background in computer science but also in philosophy, and he is pushing he's now releasing a book called Post Europe, and he has a very interesting like thought about how like the difference between technology, culture, and all these things should be taken out, and taking the Chinese tradition as an example to maybe push forward. So I think just looking around and getting maybe a little bit away from our Western culture and seeing other examples can help us to breach better.
That's very
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, maybe one more final question. It's like you have such a diverse range of mediums throughout your work, from physical to virtual and everything. When you come up with a topic that you want to express, how do you even begin to think? Like, if you're a painter, you paint, you approach it that way. But your materials and everything are so far-ranging. How do you decide? How do you make that decision of which way you're going to go with all the options that you have open to you?
Well, for me, is actually, like you see, like a lot of things, but I normally use mechanics, code, and networks. That's what I use. And then for the as I've been able to get more budget for the projects, I started collaborating also with friends from that come from fashion, because I really like to work with fabrics and stuff. And for example, the covers of the babies. Sorry, I keep calling them babies. But the covers of the babies are made from a friend that is that works in fashion. So I like to add the diversity on the looks also by collaborating with other people that are expertise in their thing. But actually, even from the outside, you can see different. For me, it's always like it's all like code and mechanics, electronics, and networks.
And what I really like is like you're making the technology approachable, or the robots approachable. And I don't, after learning more about a lot of things, I don't even want to say humanized, because you're saying we shouldn't be humanizing them, right? Because they have their own world. So can you explain a little bit more about how we should see it, not as humans maybe, but as their own entity?
The robots?
Yes,
No,
yeah.
I mean, technology is part of the human. We don't need to humanize it. It doesn't come from nothing, It's part of something that we build. I think we should. I've been thinking a lot about this question actually, and I think that I don't know how because I'm not no one to tell anyone. My proposal would be, or a thing that I'm comfortable with, is that kind of a little bit what I was explaining before, maybe too fast, which is that understand that they can be other ways of existence, which is not being alive, maybe, but it's like other ways of existence that we can. That I cannot doesn't need to be biological or don't need to be even conscious, but that we have to learn to cohabit, in a way. And I think that's the importance. Then the way you describe it, like I call that thing baby, it's like you can call whatever name you want, you feel comfortable with. That the things have different meanings for people then in their minds, and especially with different languages.
Great. All right, any more questions, anybody? No? All right, well, thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
This is amazing, amazing work.
Thank you.